The competition is entering the final round, and 4 contestants have already said goodbye to the challenge. First was Cubby, perhaps the unluckiest of them all. In a moment of carelessness, he dropped an arrow into his thigh, leaving him no choice but to withdraw. Next came Peter and Dusty, both leaving for different reasons, but their departures were no less emotional. And finally, Michaela, who, after a brave and determined effort, decided to step away, overwhelmed by loneliness and exhaustion. Each departure brought a wave of regret and respect, reminding us just how harsh and unforgiving this battle against nature truly is. As we move forward, only the strongest remain. Who will rise? Who will fall? And who will be the last one standing? Don't miss what's coming next. Like this video, leave a comment to cheer for your favorite, and subscribe to follow this unforgettable survival journey. In the previous episode, Timber successfully took down a massive moose and is now storing a large amount of meat. The other contestants are also giving it their all, fighting hard to survive. At this point, the $500,000 prize is still up for grabs, with the odds of winning evenly split among them. Ever since he hunted down the massive moose weighing nearly 1,000 pounds, Timber has been working nonstop to process the enormous amount of meat. He's constantly on edge, worried that bears or wolves might come and steal his hard-earned prize, or worse, that the meat might spoil. In the end, he decided the best way to preserve it was by smoking all of it. As the weather grows colder by the day, Timber finds himself with an endless list of tasks and barely any time to rest. Today's mission? Build a proper bed. Staying off the ground during the winter is crucial, as the earth will soon become unbearably cold. After measuring the right dimensions, he headed out to cut down trees to build the bed frame. It's no easy feat. Every step must be done with care to avoid injury. Just an hour into the work, the sheer weight of the massive logs began to take its toll. Exhausted, Timber had no choice but to take a short break before continuing his laborious task. Dub is feeling quite comfortable with his current situation. He's begun gathering and stockpiling dry firewood, and of course, checking his fish traps every day. The river in front of his shelter is nearly frozen over, and he knows time is running out. From now until it fully ices up, he needs to catch and store as much fish as possible. Only with enough food and firewood can he hope to survive the brutal winter ahead. Unfortunately, luck isn't on his side today. The fish trap came up empty. With no other option, Dub sets everything else aside and heads to the riverbank to focus entirely on fishing. Time passes. The cold creeps in. But just when things feel hopeless, the line on his auto-fishing rod starts to twitch. His heart races with anxiety and anticipation. Unable to wait any longer, he grabs the line himself and begins to pull. He can feel it. The fish is huge. It yanks so hard, Dub nearly tumbles into the icy water. Steady hands, slow movements. He carefully draws the fish in, inch by inch. And then, there it is. Massive. A real prize catch. Grinning, he holds it up to the camera to show off his success, when suddenly, a small slip. The fish wriggles free and flops back into the river. Dub freezes stunned. He stands in silence, staring in disbelief as the water ripples away. It's a crushing blow, but after a deep breath, he shakes off the shock and steadies himself. There's no time for regret out here. He just has to stay calm and wait for the next chance. The other day, Jake managed to catch 3 fish in a single net, a solid win. In his spare time, he even sculpted a clay pipe, more for entertainment than anything practical. But today, he's got a serious task, building a long-term shelter that can stand up to the harsh winter ahead. He decides on a cone-shaped tent design, aiming to make it as tall as possible for better airflow and space. Once the frame is up, he carefully layers thick spruce branches over it, followed by a waterproof tarp for extra insulation. It's a massive undertaking, one that can't be finished in a single day. Still, he can't ignore the need for food. Jake sets aside some time to check his traps and go fishing. Since the beginning of the competition, he's caught fish 6 times, 4 of which came from his trusty net. Today, though, he's back at the river with a homemade fishing line. He lost his original gear early in the show, so he's relying entirely on this improvised setup. He finds a promising spot and casts his line into the water. Shockingly, the bait barely touches the surface before a massive fish bites. Jake braces himself and starts to reel it in, but then disaster. The line snaps, and his entire fishing rig sinks into the river. Devastated, Jake wades into the freezing water to retrieve the handmade gear. With his body now soaked, he knows he needs to get back to camp quickly to warm up and dry off before hypothermia sets in. It's clear now, Jake needs to refocus on completing his shelter and come up with a more reliable strategy for catching fish. Out here, even small setbacks can become serious threats to survival. It's now day 20, and recently, William has been catching a lot of fish. Some are for immediate meals, while the rest are being smoked for long-term preservation. This morning, he prepared a special dish, birch bark soup. Despite sounding strange, this soup is rich in starch, natural sugars, and vitamins, helping to supplement the nutrients missing from a fish-only diet and increasing the feeling of fullness. Today, William headed into the forest to check on his smokehouse. While at it, he planned to forage for wild berries and possibly do some hunting. Suddenly, he heard a growling noise echoing from a distance. Upon closer inspection, he realized it was a long-tailed weasel, a protected species under local law, so he had no choice but to leave it alone. But when he reached the smokehouse, he froze. The fish he had carefully smoked and preserved were gone, clearly eaten, and the culprit was likely the weasel from earlier. To avoid going hungry, William quickly made his way back to the river to fish again. From a distance, he spotted a large fish caught in his net, and his mood immediately lifted. After gutting and splitting the fish, he packed it securely into a bag. This time, William took no chances. He tied the bag tightly and hung it high in a tree, far away from the forest edge, determined to not let his hard-earned food get stolen again. Today, the show's medical team is arriving to conduct health checks on each remaining contestant. If anyone is found to be medically unfit, they'll be forced to leave and return home for treatment. Jake is extremely anxious. He's been struggling with both physical injuries and emotional exhaustion. Isaiah, on the other hand, has been experiencing occasional chest pain. He suspects it might be heart-related, but the doctor later clarifies it's actually due to hunger. Timber had previously suffered a bout of stomach pain, but he managed to recover on his own. One by one, the contestants undergo their checkups. Most are cleared to continue, all except one. It's Jake. The doctor diagnoses him with a bowel obstruction, a condition where stool becomes lodged in the rectum, preventing normal digestion. It's a serious issue that requires immediate medical attention. If untreated, it could become life-threatening. Though disappointed and reluctant to leave, Jake ultimately accepts the reality of the situation. With a heavy heart, he says goodbye to the competition and prepares to head home for treatment. Lately, Sarah has been diligently going out to fish every day, but she always comes back empty-handed. One day, a pesky gray jay lands on a roof of her shelter and starts stealing her fishing bait. Frustrated, she yells to chase it away. If that bird weren't a protected species, it might have ended up as dinner. Today is no different. Sarah heads back to the riverbank to check her fishing traps. But before she gets there, the sudden flapping of wings catches her attention. A spruce grouse appears, seemingly offering itself up. There's no reason not to take the shot. She raises her bow and aims, but the arrow strikes a branch instead. Moments later, another opportunity arises. This time, she misses completely. With no luck in hunting, she turns to the fishing traps once more, hoping for a miracle. But again, they come up empty. Disheartened and exhausted, she drags her feet back to camp. Overwhelmed with emotion, she begins to cry, missing her mother and her family deeply. The loneliness is suffocating. If the situation doesn't improve soon, it could mean the end of her journey. But after a while, Sarah collects herself, wipes away the tears, and regains her composure. She's not ready to give up just yet. With quiet determination, she presses on. Assai was gradually putting the finishing touches on his shelter. Even though his body was tired, he refused to let it slow him down. As of today, his shelter was finally complete, solid, weather-resistant, and a place he could truly call home. For the first time in a long while, he was able to relax and enjoy a deep, restful sleep. Waking up refreshed, Assai headed down to the riverbank to see if he could find anything useful. That's when he stumbled upon some dry birch bark, a fantastic find. Not only does it catch fire easily, but it's also water-resistant, making it the perfect fire-starting material in the cold wilderness. Feeling motivated, he then ventured into the forest to begin hunting. To his surprise, he stumbled upon a fully intact fishing net, something he hadn't had time or resources to make himself. It felt like a gift from the wilderness itself. With a net like this, Assai realized he wouldn't need to spend hours fishing anymore. Now the fish would come to him. Things were finally starting to look up. Sarah's hair had started falling out more noticeably, a worrying sign of her body being pushed to its limits. But that didn't stop her from heading out to search for food. Today turned out to be a success. On just one trip, Sarah managed to hunt 2 grouse. Afterward, she made her way to the riverbank to clean and prepare the birds, already thinking about what kind of meal she could cook up for dinner tonight. It's been 23 days since the competition began, and Isaiah is feeling excited just thinking about the fish that might get caught in his net. But first, he has to quickly untangle the mess of netting that looks like a twisted ball of yarn. According to the show's rules, the fishing net can't be longer than 12 feet or taller than 10 squares, so he needs to trim it down a bit. Then, he chops down a spruce tree to use as a support post. After working for a while, Isaiah suddenly feels his heart begin to tighten. He has no choice but to stop and rest. Could Isaiah be the next contestant forced to leave the show? Find out in the next episode. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can follow along with the journey every day. See you at 7 p.m. Bye for now.